Welcome to the Eat This Book podcast. I'm Michael Whitworth. Each day we take a small piece of scripture and we sit with it. Not a quick snack that disappears before lunch, not a chore you check off of a list, but rather a meal meant to be savored. So pull up a chair. Let's eat. Today we're savoring together Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. This is the first generation east of Eden. Adam and Eve have been expelled. The garden is behind them, guarded by cherubim and a flaming sword. Now they're building a life in a harder world, a world of thorns and sweat and pain. And they have children. First Cain, then Abel. The first brothers, the first family born outside of paradise. Eve names her firstborn Cain, or Cain in Hebrew, and says, "I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord." There's hope in that statement, maybe even faith. Maybe she's thinking of the promise of Genesis 3:15. Maybe she wonders if this son is the one who will crush the serpent's head. He isn't. The boys grow up. They take different paths. Abel becomes a keeper of sheep. Cain becomes a worker of the ground, like his father, tilling the soil that was cursed because of Adam's sin. And then, in the course of time, both brothers bring offerings to the Lord. Verse 3, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. Verse 4, Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. Two offerings, two brothers, but God doesn't respond to them the same way. The Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. Why? The text doesn't say explicitly. Scholars have debated this for centuries. Some point to the quality of the offerings. Abel brought the firstborn and the fat portions, the best of what he had, while Cain just brought an offering of the fruit of the ground. No mention of first fruits, no indication of the best. Others point to the heart behind the offering. Hebrews 11 verse 4 says Abel offered by faith. Maybe the difference wasn't in the gift, but in the giver. We don't know for certain, but here's what we do know. God saw something. God saw into both offerings and both hearts. And whatever God saw in Cain's offering, it wasn't enough. Sometimes our worship falls flat. Sometimes we go through the motions and God isn't honored. The scary part is that Cain probably didn't know the difference. He brought an offering. He did the religious thing. But something was missing, and God could tell. Cain's response is immediate. Verse 5, So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. The Hebrew is vivid. His countenance dropped. You can picture it, the slumped shoulders, the darkened eyes, the jaw tight with resentment. He's not just disappointed, he's furious. And the anger isn't directed at himself, it's directed outward, at God, at Abel, at the injustice of being passed over. This is the moment before the murder. The violence hasn't happened yet, but the anger is already burning. The face has already fallen. Something is building inside Cain that will soon explode. And then God speaks. This is what I want you to see. God doesn't leave Cain alone in his spiral. He intervenes. He asks questions, just like he did with Adam and Eve in the garden. Why are you angry? And why has your face fallen? God knows why. But the question is for Cain. It's an invitation to examine himself, to name what's happening inside, to bring the darkness into the light before it consumes him. And then comes the warning. Verse 7, If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. Sin is crouching at the door. That's one of the most vivid images in all of Scripture. The Hebrew word for crouching is rebetz. It's an animal word. It's used for a lion lying in wait, muscles coiled, eyes fixed on prey. Sin isn't standing politely outside, knocking. It's crouching. It's hunting. It's waiting for the moment to spring. And the door? That's the threshold of Cain's heart. That's the boundary between temptation and action. The sin hasn't happened yet. Cain is angry, but he hasn't killed anyone. His face has fallen, but his hands are still clean. The door is still closed. But sin is right there, crouching, waiting, and wanting. Its desire is contrary to you. The word for desire here is the same word used in Genesis 3:16 when God told Eve that her desire would be for her husband. It's a desire to control, to possess, to dominate. Sin wants Cain, not just to tempt him, to own him, to master him, to swallow him whole. This is what sin does. It doesn't just want to make you stumble once. It wants to consume you. It wants to become your master. It crouches at the door, and if you let it in, it doesn't leave. It moves in. It takes over. But here's the crucial part. God doesn't just warn Cain, he gives him hope. But you must rule over it. You can rule over it. You don't have to open the door. You don't have to let the crouching predator in. The anger is real. The temptation is real. But you are not powerless. You can master this. That's remarkable. In the moment before Cain commits the first murder in human history, God tells him he has a choice. The outcome isn't inevitable. The sin is crouching, but the door is still closed. Cain can still choose differently. But he doesn't. We know how the story ends, but in this moment, the choice is real. I think we've all stood at that door. The anger is burning, the resentment is building, the jealousy, the lust, the bitterness, it's right there, crouching, wanting, waiting for us to open the door. And in that moment, we have a choice. The sin feels inevitable. It feels like the momentum is too strong, like we've already decided, like there's no point in fighting. But that's a lie. The door is still closed. The crouching predator hasn't won yet. You can rule over it. Not in your own strength. We'll need to talk about grace and the Spirit and all of that. But the choice is real. God doesn't tell Cain, well, you're going to fail anyway, so don't bother. He says, you must rule over it. The battle isn't lost until you open the door. Here's what strikes me about this passage. God gives Cain every chance. He warns him. He explains what's happening. He tells him there's still a way to be accepted. If you do well, will you not be accepted? He describes the danger vividly. He affirms that victory is possible. God does everything short of forcing Cain's hand. The choice remains Cain's. That's how God works. He pursues. He warns. He explains. He invites, but he doesn't override your will. The door is yours to open or keep closed. So here's what I want us to savor from Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. If you're in the moment before the sin, if the anger is burning, if the temptation is crouching, if you can feel yourself sliding towards something you'll regret, stop. The door is still closed. You can still choose differently. God says you can rule over it. Believe him. If you've ignored the warnings before, if you've opened the door and let the predator in, there's still grace. We'll see that even Cain, even after this first murder, receives mercy from God. The door you opened isn't the end of the story. And if you're wondering whether God sees, whether he cares about the state of your heart, this passage says yes. He saw the difference between Cain's offering and Abel's. He sees the difference in you. He knows when you're going through the motions and when your heart is really in it. Bring him your best. Bring him your firstborn and fat portions. And when sin crouches at the door, don't open it. Sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. Next time on Eat This Book, the door has been opened and the consequences can't be undone. A brother lies dead in a field. God comes asking questions, and Cain responds with one of the most blood-chilling lines in all of Scripture. Am I my brother's keeper? What happens when sin is no longer crouching, but is already devoured? How does God respond to the first murder, and why does mercy show up where we least expect it? Join me next time as we follow Cain into judgment, exile, and a grace that refuses to let violence have the final word. Thanks for reading with me. Until next time, may the Word dwell in you richly.